Here we are then with Kiss, who I've become massively obsessed with in the last few weeks. I don't really know why. I just kind of got in the zone for Kiss, to be honest with you. And also, I've started humming Detroit Rock City to my son to get him to sleep at night. So he's getting kind of and it seems to work. So I have no complaints here from the parenting point of view. This is so much fun, this one. There's huge amounts of awesome guitar writing. There's doubled lines coming up later on. Just make sure you've got your E-flat tuned guitar, because if we're playing along with the album version of the song here, it's all tuned down a semitone. But in the meantime, let's get straight into it. This is Kiss with Detroit Rock City. I'm really going to enjoy this lesson too much. Like, I wish I'd had this lesson when I was a kid. Okay. The first thing you need to do is to learn about triplets, but let's not complicate it too much. This is the rhythm you need here on this 4th fret on your A string. Like that. And then the triplets come when you play the note like this. So, let's say you're Paul Stanley, lead guitar here, who wrote this song incidentally. Use your 3rd and 1st finger to alternate between that 4th and 2nd fret on your A string. Down and up with your picking hand. So that's nice and easy. You do that round 3 times. And then you're doing these 4th frets with those triplet patterns. Now, interestingly, when Paul Stanley plays it live, for some unknown reason, he doesn't actually play all the notes, which I'm sure you hear on the record, but when he plays live, he goes... So he misses out the last 2 for some reason, but we'll play all of them. What happens is the 2nd guitar part joins in on the 3rd time, which we're not going to play when we're doing it in our live performance later, but just to show you what happens, up on this 6th fret on the D string, you get the same rhythmic pattern, and the 6th and the 4th frets being alternated. So that only happens once on the 3rd time round. So so really the line is like this. Then you've got probably the coolest bit of the song, which is the power chords. Now it's an open E string. I always thought it was an A, but instead it's an open E string, so into the A power chord. Now every other tab that I've ever seen has this bit wrong, but what happens when Paul Stanley plays is he plays the open string again, and then uses his 3rd finger to play the 4th frets on the D string and the G string. So he goes... So make sure you play it like that, because that's how he does it, and he puts a little bit of vibrato in when it's live. And then there's this doubled section here. Now, I'm sure that this is 2 guitars on the album, but if you want to play it yourself, it's good practice to kind of pick doubled strings here. You're up here on the 6th fret this time, playing the D and the G. Quite hard to do that. So that same pattern we learnt before. And then you're going to land here on the C sharp, 4th fret, power chord. And Paul Stanley does this with the 1st finger, and then barring the 3rd finger across. Those 2 notes. Then you jump up to this 7th fret on the A string, which is essentially an E. Obviously we're tuned down a semitone, but I'll just use it in the chords that we know from standard tuning. Now this is something that Brian May does in Queen's We Will Rock You. He doubles the power chords, so you hear... So after playing the first one initially just once on the 4th fret, you jump up to the 7 and you double it. With the picking, jump over to this B, which is the 7th fret there. And then up here, and you're going to play this as a major chord. So using your 3rd finger all the way across. And jump down again. We'll do it again. And then we're going back to this really cool power chord riff again. By the way, a little trick, if you're playing this, you don't want the bottom string to ring all the time. So you slide down from here, from this 9th power chord that we did. And then mute that with your thumb if you want. Just to keep it nice and clean. This is a really cool guitar riff, so there's no bending at all. I think it's absolutely crucial to say there are no bent notes in this. Lots of tabs say that you bend the 3rd. If you listen to it, there's literally no bending at all, so we're going to keep it nice and straight. That's probably the hardest one. Down, up, down, up. You've got to just think about crossing that string. Then you come back to this open pattern again. Notice I'm using my thumb to block out the E string at the bottom there, just to make it quiet. Then we're going to go around these chords again. This is the 4th fret, C sharp, as I think of it. Up to the C. It's important that the first time you play it, it's not doubled. The second time this C sharp comes around, it is got the up-down pattern. Then we end up on this awesome little riff again. See, I bent a string there, so that's naughty of me. We'll go on to page 2 of our tab though, where this riff gets a little bit more complicated. It changes up, so we'll just run through this as well. And then it changes up to this 6th fret. So the way to handle this little high moment, so you're going to do the triplet pattern with that 6th fret, down, up, down, pull off, up, pick here, and then you're going to use the 1st finger unusually for every time this comes round, and then you're going to swap down. And then all you do is you transfer that up 2 frets now. So there's a little turnaround section where you're jumping down again on this 6th fret. Then down. Then it's back to that pattern that we've come to know and love. I'll just tell you this last little bit, which is slightly different before we get onto the solo section and break it up here. The chords are different this time round because there's sliding going on. So you're going to jump up to the 12th fret here, but still using your 1st and 3rd finger. Then up to the 12th again. And then you play this one and slide 7th. So this is the solo section then. Some very unusual picking and finger combinations here, which are quite tough to master, so you will want to follow along in the tab if you want it to be quite accurate here. You're going to go up to the 11th fret. Now this is the live option here. Whereas what you hear on the record is the 11th fret, 9th fret, and then I think you hear a drop down to that note. Let's say you've landed on this 11th fret here, and you've done the album version, you're going to be on a 3rd finger, which is good. But if you've done the live version, you're going to have ended up on a 1st finger, then you're going to have to jump. So just know that those are the two differences with the fingering patterns there. So let's say we've done the album version. The next bit is the 9th fret with a slide, but you are going to pick both of these notes. And then you're going to slide here as a full slide there. Then this 11 to 9, love it. Then, so that's a little cheeky movement under the finger there. So you're going to do the 3rd finger, and then the 8th fret with your 1st finger, and a hammer on there with the 2nd. But use your 3rd finger to slide back down. And then you're going to go to the 6th to the 7th, the 1st finger slide. Very snaky, this little riff. That's a nice one, that's very Slash-esque. So 3rd to 3rd. So you can play the same thing again, or you can go for the harmony line, which I'll run you through now. So this is a 2nd guitar. On the 9th fret, you want to go up to this D string here. Now, live, if you're Paul Stanley and you're doing the harmony, you go like this. Jump down to that 5th fret there, which I think is quite an unnecessary leap, but why not? And then you go back up to the 9th here. Or the other option is to just stay up there. On the 9th fret like that, and then which I think doesn't have as much spice to it, but it's easier. So whichever one you prefer, I'd say perhaps not the live option. Now you're going to continue after letting that 8th fret ring out, sliding down on the 2nd finger. You're going to do an up pick. So that's a 2nd finger slide down from the 8 to the 6. So down and up, and then so that's that same tripling that we've had before. And then you're going to jump up here with the 2nd finger onto the 9th fret, and then the same pattern again. So this is another sneaky 3rd finger, 1st finger combination here. So pull off using the 1st finger on that 8th fret, and then slide up. And you're going to go all the way up to the 13th here and do this kind of shape. And we're still on the harmony line here. We're nearly at the end of the song actually as well. 13th fret. There's a hammer on pull off situation. And then you're going to come round to this shape again on the 9th fret. So you're going to do this 9th to the 8th with the 3rd and 1st fingers again, so nice and close. And then if you're playing this live, you don't bother playing a single note at all there, and then you just jump to this power chord. If you're not doing it live and you're in an album situation, you can hear that this is what they play. But I think that's a bit too much to kind of fit in a live situation there, so I just do. And then this is the same shape that we've learnt before. That's the only time where you really reach the third chord in the sequence that it sounds like you want to play. So we do it again. And that's the end of the song. Now, there is a harmony line option at the top with two guitars going over it. I'll just run you through that quickly. And then the harmony line over the top of that, which is added on, is the 16th fret. Those are the harmony line options over the top if you want to play them, but I would just recommend going for the big chord. And then the car crashes and the song ends, and that's the end of Kiss's Detroit Rock City, which I really love. Like I say, what a great track to learn how to play. We'll do a little playthrough of it as well, but if you've enjoyed Kiss and you want more, then let me know. Subscriptions always help us out. We're way past 500 now, so thank you for that. And we'll keep going, and we'll see you further down the line.